Charles III, as the King of the United Kingdom, is the head of the Church of England and the defender of the faith. And he is defending the faith. The problem is it's just not the faith that the Church of England believes in. In the last week, Charles has been packing dates for Muslims who are breaking their fast during Ramadan. He has held a call to prayer for Muslims in Windsor Castle, and the royal family's social media accounts have been welcoming Ramadan. At the same time, those accounts and Charles have been conspicuously silent about the beginning of Lent, about Shrove Tuesday and about Ash Wednesday. In other words, the holy rituals and traditions that the Church of England believes in. This is a slap in the face to Christians across the United Kingdom. And when I said that Charles is defending the wrong faith, I wasn't necessarily referring to Islam, although that is certainly a component of this. He is defending the religion of the progressive elites of recent years. It is the progressive leftist establishment that believes in DEI, in wokeism, in multiculturalism. Now, we know that Charles believes that sort of stuff in his heart, but it's now very obviously bubbling to the surface in his role. And make no mistake, this is an existential threat for the future of the monarchy. Do I think that Charles III will end up in the same boat as Charles I? No, I don't. But at the same time, the people who most ardently support the monarchy, being conservatives, are turning off because he's espousing views which they don't believe in. He has a choice to make here. Either he supports and defends the faith that he is obligated to do, and he supports British values, or he continues this globalist, multicultural nonsense and watches support for the royal family wither away and die.
Yeah, I mean, look, so just to start off, I mean, the king and the royal family don't normally comment on Ash Wednesday. I think that's a traditional thing they have followed, just so the audience are aware. But Kai, I mean, you know, is this not what we expect from the king? We expect better.
Well, really, get a grip here, OK? The king has always been a fan of interfaith dialogue, right? 3 weeks ago, he signed a massive accord between Jewish leaders and Muslim leaders because of the sort of distrust after the war in Gaza.
Did he tweet about it?
And it's really important that we have an unifying king, somebody who's willing to be compassionate for people who are sort of expressing their freedom of religion in this country. If he, that, I think it's really admirable and strikes a completely different contrast to the likes of you guys who would rather that we pretend like Muslims in the UK don't exist.
No. The point is it takes nothing to send a tweet out. It takes nothing for him to send a tweet out on Ash Wednesday. It takes nothing to.
The reality is, Kai,
but the royal family... Let me come back to that.
Hang on, you can come back in a second, but the reality is the king is the head of the Church of England, the Anglican Church, and I think that's what Will's point is to some extent, is that this is his first and foremost duty as defender of the faith. And I think what Will is saying is that he's moving away from that old, solid piece of solid line that the king is meant to adhere to. Do you not agree to that? Do you not agree that that's his job is to defend the Christian faith?
And he does do that. I really, really despise this idea that he's not doing any Christian sort of big set pieces in the year, when we know that there's a massive fuss around the royal family's Christmas. All our pageantry, everything that the royal family stands for is laden with Christian symbolism. So to pretend like he's moving away from this because he believes in multiculturalism is a load of guff.
All right, laden with Christian symbolism is actually a joke because the lights in London in Regent Street are actually Ramadan lights. I have no problem with us celebrating every other faith. We've got a big Jewish holiday coming up. We've got Passover coming up. Knock yourselves out. But if we're going to do that, and it's called multiculturalism, which that I believe doesn't work, but if we accept that it does, then we must do it to the Christian faith as well.
The point is, when Charles was coronated, he changed the wording to say defender of all the faiths. This week, he forgot Christianity, and you can't deny that.
No. I think it's good for him to... I think it's important...
Did he forget Christianity this week, yes or no?
That he goes out and does something unexpected, rather than what he... After many years of supporting the Christian causes. I think it's only right that he's supporting Muslims, both in the UK, but also who are under his dominion across the world. That's quite an important point.
Maybe we look at it this way. Do you think the king is being pragmatic here, setting the royal family up to survive? I mean, one of the big jobs of a royal is to make sure that that their institution survives the test of time. And, you know, we're going to talk about this coming up very soon in my monologue, which is the changing culture and the changing face of our country. If he goes full in, I'm Christian, I'm defending Christianity only, is he putting the royal family at risk in its longevity by not acknowledging the truth that our country is changing dramatically?
Well, perhaps if we address that truth, that our country is changing dramatically, and then suddenly decided what we are, which is a Christian country, still, even in all of the surveys, we are a majority Christian country, then perhaps we ought to start moving ourselves further towards being a Christian country, and that's what he should do.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is, as I said, there is a perception now amongst the most traditionally ardent supporters of the monarchy that he doesn't care about them or their faith anymore. And if you lose them, you lose your base. That is what is happening at the moment. Whether or not you think it's fair or not, Kai, that is what is happening at the moment.
It literally takes a matter of seconds to schedule a tweet. Why did no one in the royal family's press office think, schedule a tweet, tick, that's that holiday done, now we can schedule the next one, tick, that's one. He can do as much as he wants for the Muslim faith, absolutely fine, support it, diversity, wonderful, great. But the point is, he forgot Christianity.
It shows the shallowness of this whole argument.
We did.
That basically it's hinging on whether he sent a tweet or not, when in fact there's a whole host of other things that the king and the royal family do to support the Christian faith.
You
know that. So one tweet? Come on.
OK, guys, look, we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately. I know this is a debate. We'll come back to this another week, I'm sure of it. But after the break.
For decades, King Charles III has been told not to interfere in politics. But I think he should really embrace a new type of role. Now, as the Prince of Wales, we know that he was famous for his handwritten black spider memos to cabinet ministers. But he also was very vocal, speaking out on climate change, alternative medicine, and a whole host of other really important topics. Now, should he now, as king, fade away into a regal silence, or actually, in an era of increasing political dysfunction, is it time to embrace a more vocal king? Now, after all, he has been known for a number of his very prescient policy positions. Climate change and environmentalism. He was championing years and years before anybody else really cottoned on. He's railed against corporate greed, he's battled with traditional town planners, and all sorts more. He's a big defender of the countryside. Maybe, actually, the king should embrace the role, and we should honour that. It's a new, modern way for the royal family to operate. I think it's fantastic.
God.
Go on, Will.
Kai, can I ask you a question? Do you stand by your comments on this show about 20 minutes ago where you said the king should embrace his role as a unifier of the country? Or do you have this new position about 20 minutes later where you're saying he should be taking on divisive political positions?
King stands
See,
for
I don't
elections.
think those are mutually exclusive. I think being a religious unifier is a position of his. He has been a supporter of interfaith dialogue. So that is just something he believes, that he puts into practice. Good on him. That's another example to add to my roster of things that King Charles could do as a great service in actually contributing to the public debate.
Listen, I just absolutely gobsmacked at this monologue you've chosen to go with tonight, Kai, because we all know, British people across this country know, that the role of the king is to be impartial, neutral, and to do the job of the royal family. You must not wade into any political argument. You do so at your peril, and as Will rightfully said earlier on, Charles I ended up in a very precarious situation because he waded way past his remit in getting into politics. If we want a political king, we should scrap the monarchy and have a president, which is what any other sensible country has, not an elected dictator, which is exactly what you are advocating for, is it not?
No. I think this is a modern king for a modern era with modern politics. And frankly, our politicians have failed us to such a great degree that actually, we need somebody with decades.
So you want President Charles.
With his decades of leadership to contribute to the debate.
Are so rubbish that we want to look with pleading eyes to the king to take over. What a ludicrous
Not
statement.
to take over.
He's the king.
You know I'm not saying
He
that.
should do what his mother did.
Yep.
Just be...
Absolutely. The perfect example.
No, sorry.
No, go on.
See how that worked out. Sorry, justify that comment. See how the Queen worked out.
Well,
Longest monarch in British history.
Monarch ever.
Yeah, but that doesn't, what we've been through decades of stagnation, the difficulty.
Because that's the.
We didn't do anything.
What I was going to say was the fact is the best blueprint for being a brilliant monarch was Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and you saw it in the sitcom in the Windsors. The only thing that the royals need to do is shake hands and pull ropes to unveil plaques. That's what Charles needs to do. The blueprint's out there. He should have looked at his mother. I'm sorry, but we don't need President Charles. Enough said.
But it's not worked, really, has it? Do you think that the model that we have is working?
Are you living in the same Britain? I know that things have got bad since Labour came in, but I think you're mixing the two up.
I don't understand what's so controversial about having a king who can also
You're literally advocating for President Charles.
No, I am not.
Gentlemen,
you know I'm not.
I'd like to bring Will back. He's having a fun over here. Will, what do you make of this insanity?
Kai it's a bold play dissing the Queen on national television. Let's see how that goes.
On here of all places.
But isn't it funny how the left does the fight for democracy narrative when it suits them,
Yep.
but having a political monarch is also completely fine when it suits them? There's no...
Lost for words.
I think I'm giving this more credit than it deserves.
Quick right of reply, go on.
I'm not talking about a change in his constitutional role. I'm just saying, actually, with
Welcome back to Royal Sussex Squad, your go-to source for unfiltered truth and unapologetic real talk. If you love calling out hypocrisy, exposing double standards, and standing up for Harry and Meghan against the nonsense, you're in the right place. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and support us through super thanks, because independent voices like ours matter. King Charles is making headlines yet again, and let me tell you, it's a mess. Apparently, the so-called defender of the faith is ruffling some feathers by embracing all faiths instead of catering exclusively to the Church of England. The same royalists who spent years telling Meghan Markle to assimilate are suddenly outraged that Charles is recognising the religious diversity of his own country. Make it make sense. When Meghan simply acknowledged her own black heritage, these same folks were foaming at the mouth, but now they're mad that Charles isn't bowing down to their outdated exclusionary ideals. The hypocrisy is astounding. Let's be real. This outrage isn't about faith, it's about control. It's the same crowd that spent years demonizing Harry and Meghan for daring to be independent and refusing to be their royal puppets. The moment Meghan showed strength, intelligence and grace, they labelled her a divisive force. But when Charles openly embraces interfaith dialogue, suddenly he's the one betraying Britain. Oh, please! And here's the kicker, these same critics love to complain about the monarchy being outdated. Yet when Charles modernizes, they throw a tantrum. If the monarchy is truly about uniting people, then why is embracing diversity such a problem? Why is recognizing Ramadan seen as an issue, but ignoring Lent is suddenly a national crisis? Let's also address this ridiculous claim that Charles's actions are an existential threat to the monarchy. Really? Because last time I checked, the real threat to the monarchy was the institution's inability to evolve. Harry and Meghan offered them a way forward, a modern, global and inclusive vision. And what did the firm do? Smear campaigns, racist dog whistles and outright lies. They had a golden opportunity to show the world that they could adapt, and instead they clung to the past like a sinking ship. Now let's talk about what's really happening here. The monarchy is in crisis not because Charles sent Ramadan greetings, but because the British public is waking up. The younger generation, the future of this country, doesn't care about old-school royal traditions that exclude people. They see through the smear tactics used against Meghan. They know Harry was right to walk away from the toxicity, and most importantly, they know that the royal family needs to change or risk complete irrelevance. And let's not forget, these are the same royal experts who swore up and down that Harry and Meghan would fade into irrelevance once they left the UK. And yet here we are, years later, and the Sussexes are thriving, making global impact, securing major deals, and still living rent-free in the minds of their haters. Meanwhile, the monarchy is in shambles, struggling for relevance and constantly embroiled in scandal. So, what do you think? Is the monarchy sinking under its own hypocrisy? Are they regretting pushing Harry and Meghan away? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that super thanks button to support independent voices like ours. Until next time, stay bold, stay loud, and keep calling out the nonsense.